Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Bryant. I'm doing the review of the cyber education papers. What are cybersecurity education papers about? A systematic lecture review of SIGCSE and conferences. Table of content: ACM SIGCSE and ACM ITICSE conferences. Cybersecurity education. The two methods used to survey the research papers: paper criteria, the results of the research, conclusion, keywords. I'll put a few current events in there too, and the citations. ACM SIGCSE and ACM ITICSE conference. The Association for Computing Machinery Special Interest Groups Computer Science Education. This organization is a global forum for educators to discuss research that include graphics and interactive techniques. Is for the generation and dissemination of information on computer graphics and interactive technologies. The members include researchers, developers, and users from technical, academic, and business communities. This conference in particular is on the 52nd conference, which takes hold of 13th to 20th of March in 2021. The next conference this paper reviews below is the Association for Computing Machinery Innovation and Technology in Computer Science Education. This is also a global forum. This is an online conference this year. It's going to be from the 26th of June to the 1st of July. And it's hosted by, it's online and hosted by the university below. The reason why I notate all the information about these conferences, the paper, it grabs all the articles and studies from these conferences. It's a total of 1,748 papers that we reviewed from 2010 to 2019, and they end up doing 71 papers when they analyze for this literature review. Cybersecurity education. The research on cybersecurity education, that's what the paper is about. Conducting lecture reviews is how they gather the information. A key thing, one of the key papers that they grabbed was a synthesis paper on the topic of capture the flag. This is a competition or educational event on cybersecurity where two teams go against each other, usually a red team and a blue team. One tries to hack into the other system, or the other one tries to defend, vice versa. They get points depending on what techniques they use. The paper also has ACM and IEEE, the standards, the industry standards that they have to go by to make sure it's everything is standardized. And CompTIA plays a role as well. It's a certification, so it says the person is CYSA certified as cybersecurity certification. There are a number of ways to inspect and survey and analyze research papers. These are some of the ways that the techniques they use. The two methods they use to survey the research paper is a systematic lecture review. It's to answer a clear and concise question. Those are your who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then in this content, it'll be in the cyber education. And this is systematic mapping study is gathering all the different studies together, reviewing the 71 cyber education papers and putting them all together. This is focuses on gathering information from multiple studies in order to produce an understanding of the area of the topic. Both approaches are used. They're aimed at summarizing the existing research. Papers criteria. So how they narrowed it down from those 1,000 papers to the 71. They went to both conferences and they used to filter the second bullet that I have there, the cyber secure or secure. Then they narrowed it down by years. They did 2010 to 2019. They removed the posters or panels. The reason why they removed the poster and panels is they only had 1 page or 2 pages, or just had one big graphic up, and they really couldn't extract information from that. So after they used the first 3 bullets, the first 3 filters, they ended up with 90 prospect papers. Then two authors read the 90 papers independently. The reason why they did it independently is to prevent bias. They use a quantitative measurement of reliability for 2 raters that are rating the same thing, which is the Kuhan's Kappa. that uses keywords and key definitions, and they hit both the same rating scheme with these 90 papers. After they went through the same rating scheme with these 90 papers, they end up with 19 false positives. The 19 false positives came from them this identifying papers that just had the word cybersecurity in it and didn't really talk about cybersecurity, or cyber education and didn't really talk about cyber education. It was filling another topic. The results of the research. What cybersecurity topics are discussed in the paper? 8 critical knowledge areas were discussed in most of the papers. Data security. This is your digital data, such as your databases, data at rest. Societal security, how much the government can control, the information. The organizational security. This is your policies, your acceptance use policies of what cannot go on the network. The human security, feeling safe on the network. Your system security. This is you authenticating onto the network. This is like you getting your V number and then getting a password, so only you as a user can use it, or the admin if needed be. This is your antivirus protection and your modifications. Then you have your connection security. This is your encryption. This is when you use WPA on your network, or WPA2 or WPA3, or this can be as simple as putting a lock on one of an Excel or Word document. This refers to those in the studies. Then you have the component security. This is by having different vendors for security. So having Apple and then having Android, having both. So I'm using Samsung and then putting a little VMware on top of it to support something else. This has helped security and by diversity. Then you have software security, making sure everything's updated to the right version or the right model. There's something called IAVMs, where it's all the known vulnerabilities that's for that version or for that software, and it has to be up to date to the most updated model. Whereas on the IAVMs, it also actually says it identifies how the person can hack or identify that vulnerability. 23 papers also discuss network security and monitoring, the human aspects including privacy, social engineering, law, ethics, and social impact. So, like I mentioned before, those network security monitoring is who's watching on your network, human aspects, clicking on those, the clickbaits, the privacy, who has access to the information. Social engineering, using social media, grabbing things to get knowledge. Law, who has access to this information. Ethics, is it right to have the access? And society impact, what does this mean to us? So how the information is accessible to everybody else. We roll on to the second question of the results of the research is how are the teachings interventions evaluated, which they evaluated by 4 ways. The subjective perception of participants. This is your course. This is your semester-long course. You're understanding the materials of cyber education and displaying the skills throughout the course. Then you have the objective learning of the students. This is measuring performance. This is pass-fail. This is the competitions of trying to get into somebody else's network or defending a network. Then you have the artifacts produced by students, which is your assignments, your Raspberry Pis, your Arduino boards. And then the other artifacts is textbooks, like learning the chapter and understanding. The third question is how and what content are the topics taught. Majority of papers are aimed at undergraduates or graduates. That's like 90%. They use teaching practices, tools, exercises, and full courses. The other 10% is for K through 12, using fun activities, using models. That's a general understanding of cybersecurity education in total. The fourth question of the results of the research is what is the impact of the published papers? And it's really hard to say what the impact was. What the data showed from the research that they did was 42% of the papers is still currently used of their labs, models, and software and tools. It's really hard because cybersecurity education is always growing. There's always more vulnerabilities being made and more defense types being made. The fifth and last question was, who are the members of the cybersecurity education community at SIGCSE and ITCISE? The demographics of the community, of the pool of the pool of the questions, pool of the study that was grabbed was 251 authors. 190 are affiliated to universities, 31 colleges, 22 to military installations, 7 for research centers, and 2 private companies. There is a need, it looks like, from these 2 conferences for more cybersecurity education and research to be done. 2019 ITICSE, there was 0 submitted for cybersecurity education. Another key thing from the study was that these 251 authors only submitted one or two studies, maybe 5 at max, throughout the 9 years from 2010 to 2019. Conclusion: the systematic lecture review of the 71 cybersecurity education papers. That was the test conducted for all these papers with those 5 questions we answered before. The data set is publicly available for everyone to see. The framework for the future researchers is by listing the possible evaluation goals as for the next step for this research. The most observed trends are the security software development, the network security, cyber attacks, cryptography, and privacy. Only 31% of the papers provided output available to other educators and researchers. Almost 87% of the unique authors who contributed to the SIGCSE and ITCSE cybersecurity education research did so only once. Keywords in the paper: cybersecurity education, systematic lecture review. Those are your who, what, when, where, why, clear and concise questions so you can get clear and concise answers. There's the systematic mapping study, which is grabbing all information from multiple papers. This, and in our case, we gathered from those 90, getting down to 71. That's to understand the concept of cybersecurity education. The surveys that were done, which are 2 about the techniques that this paper used, was the systematic lecture review and the systematic mapping study. The SIGCSE community and the ITSCSE community are the 2 conference communities that the information was pulled from for the 71 papers. Current events. SolarWinds got hacked in around January. It's a big DoD product. It does network monitoring solutions. It affected 18,000 SolarWinds customers. Which is a lot, because it says what's going on in the network. Basically, it's like who's up, who's down, and it diagnoses and quickly detects problems. Next is my citations. Give you a moment to read them. Next is more of my citations. I gave you a moment to review them. And then pin your questions if after this brief. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.